And I'm going to move on now to someone who's been waiting in New York very patiently, a great friend of ours, Jim Clerkin, the head of Cooperation Ireland in the US, was working with Moët Hennessy until very recently, and in that capacity turned over the palatial offices of Moët Hennessy to many visitors from Belfast and many delegations. But again, you're the absolute heartbeat of Irish America in New York, Jim, but you're also an immigrant as well. And we are going to speak now and salute a great hero of literature and the arts in Irish America, Thomas Lynch. So I wanted you to introduce you, first of all, to say thanks for being with us from New York, and wanted you to introduce our next guest, our next honoree, Thomas Lynch, poet, undertaker. Jim Clerkin, great to see you.
Martin, it's great to see you, and I'm quite surprised that you've become very arts and culture-y yourself, and this new hairstyle is extremely appropriate. And if I didn't know it, I was thinking that maybe you had moved to Hollywood. So it's great that the Irish Echo does make sure that the show go on. And it is fascinating for me to have this honor, frankly, to award the soul of Irish literature to Thomas Lynch. And the soul, there is a nice little pun there, of course, because you may not know this, but Thomas took over his father's business as an undertaker 47 years ago and still does that work. But more importantly, Thomas and I thank you for letting me read this, insisting that I read this great book, because I couldn't talk to you without reading this. And I could go on for a very long time, because I remember well, Thomas, when my father died. My father died when he was 60 years old, young. I'm 66 now, so it's kind of strange thinking about that. And he was my best friend. We lived on a little farm in Rostrevor, County Down. And it broke my heart. It really broke my heart. And back then, it was customary to have a wake, which was a kind of a party, but I couldn't understand it. It didn't work for me. People coming to the house, drinking, talking, making jokes, because my dad was dead. And so when I read Booking Passage and all the great stories, and I think you referred to it as the it, whatever it is. And I found it when my mother came to me and said, back then I was called Jimmy. America made me Jim. She said, Jimmy, you know, your father would have wanted this. He would have wanted his friends, his family to remember him in a good way. And this book, well, you're a poet, Thomas. You're an extraordinary poet. You're a great writer. This book about we Irish and Americans, and I know I'm an Irish American. I'm very proud of both. You cannot but live in this country and not be proud of America, even though we've got many horrible challenges. And you cannot be not proud of Ireland and Northern Ireland and the province when you come from there. This book really, it made me feel sentimental. It made me feel lonely. It made me feel happy. This book really, when I read it, and I thought, my goodness, why have I got the honor of giving you the Soul of the Irish Literature Award? But it did resonate, Thomas. I look forward to meeting you personally. It made me feel a little homesick. I haven't been able to get home recently because of COVID. I, too, have a little cottage. I know you have a wonderful story about a cottage. I understand you got a cottage that was, I think, given to your grandfather a long time ago. And I think you started going to Ireland back in 1970, if I'm correct. And you went to learn about your family and about William Butler Yeats and James Joyce, and you've been going back ever since. And it is a bit of a calling. I want to go home so bad right now. and I hope to get back there quite soon. And booking passage has only but increased my desire to do that. So without further ado, I'm honoured to award the Soul of Irish Literature Award to Thomas Lynch, a great Irish American.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
very
Martin.
much. Thank you very much.
Thomas Lynch, respond to that. It's wonderful to have you with us on my behalf as someone who's read Booking Passage as well. And Jim has now become an Irish American. I will never be an Irish American, but from that book I got a greater understanding of what Irish America is than from anything else. And I'm a great fan of all the great Irish American writers, from Pete Hamill through to John Gregory Dunn and so on and so forth. So I want to thank you as well. But that's a great introduction, and perhaps you'd like to respond and tell us just maybe, I know you write extensively about life and death and why we're here and what's the best way to say farewell to our loved ones, but feel free to respond.
Well, I learned a good deal about how to do a funeral properly by spending as much time in Ireland as I could, because when I first landed in February of 1970, among the things that I was shown before anything else was the tomb where my great-grandparents, who were newlyweds when they moved into the house that I now have, are buried on the banks of the River Shannon. And I was the first, since my great-grandfather left there in 1890, I was the first of my line of people to go back. And I was as disappointing a Yank as ever arrived in Shannon Airport. I had $100 and no prospects, and I was a lackluster student. But my cousins, my grandfather's first cousins, brother and sister, spinster and bachelor, Tommy and Nora Lynch, welcomed me into their home and kept me for, I think it was 3 or 4 months at that time. And I just kept going back and back and back. I was there in January of 2020, before the pandemic struck. I was there to attend a wedding. And the boy who was married on the day died tragically this year after his first anniversary. I couldn't go back for that funeral. He was a neighbor of mine. I was there to dig the grave for his parents. This book, Booking Passage, which is a good few years written now, was written as a compensation for all the gifts that I'd been given by the Irish and continue to be given, which is why as soon as they lift the pestilent embargoes, I'll be on a plane and back to West Clare with the help of God.
Well, look, that's that nice. I haven't seen the award before, but that's a beautiful vase or vase they sent behind you. Yes. Well, we hadn't seen it. It was ordered from the States, but it looks well. I'm pleased to see that it's.
And it's a mighty weapon, I must say.
Well, I'm sure it is. You don't often see Jim Clerkin emotional, but he was quite emotional there as well. I'm going to leave you, but I wanted to say first to Thomas. I listened to your quarantine tapes interview, and people can Google that and check that with Paul Holden Graber. But they mentioned your own loss. Your daughter died last year. I want to express our condolences, but I need to know her name because they didn't mention your daughter's name. So
her name is Heather Grace.
Heather Grace. Well, look.
Heather Grace.
Well, our condolences in that. I'm reading Jim Clerkin has his book. I have The Good Funeral. I'm reading consecutive chapters. I'm reading your chapters. Maybe I'll work my way back later on. But when you get back to Ireland, we're going to have to get you on a train and bring you up to Belfast. But again, from the bottom of our heart, we love all you've done for Irish literature, whether it's in America or whether it's in Ireland. And Jim Clerkin,
thank you very much.
Jim Clerkin, thank you very much as well for being with us. I think that's going to do us. So from New York and from Michigan, good night. Have a great Friday. And again,
thank you very much.
Thomas,
it's been a great pleasure. I'm going to grow my hair now.
Right, Jim. Good luck. Thomas, thank you. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
God bless.
Keep the faith.